start the live stream. I see you've kicked it off. Thank you very much. Welcome, everybody. My name is Senator Chip Curry, and I chair the Innovation Development, Economic Advancement, and Business Committee, Joint Standing Committee, and we're going to get started here with confirmations. That's on the agenda for today. And so before we get going, I'd like to ask members to introduce themselves. And since we're kind of all out of order, I'm just going to call on folks. And Representative Pebworth, would you go ahead, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, everyone. And I so appreciate being called on. It's that awkwardness when nobody knows when to go next, and then they're talking over people. And in any case, I'm Sarah Pebworth. I represent House District 133, which is in the Blue Hill Peninsula. That includes Blue Hill, Brooksville, Brooklyn, Castine, Sedgwick, and Surrey.
And Representative Ducharme.
Good morning. I'm Jack Ducharme, representing House District 111, which is Madison, Norridgewock, and Solon.
Representative LaRochelle.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm Representative Reagan LaRochelle, House District 86, which is the west side of Augusta.
And Representative Austin.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Representative Sue Austin from my hometown of Gray, which is home to the Maine Wildlife Park. And I have portions of Raymond, which I will say for, I guess, maybe the last time, summer home to the famous author Nathaniel Hawthorne, and again to a small piece of Casco, which is home to Hancock Lumber. And then I have this darling little island, which is called Fry Island, which is the only freshwater island in Maine.
Well, I appreciate your introductions. And the chair, Representative Bernard.
Thank you very much, Chair Curry, and good morning, everyone. My name is Sue Bernard, and I represent Caribou, Westmanland, and New Sweden. And it is the home of still some snow and enough snow out in the fields that you can come up and recreate, bring your snowmobiles, and have a great weekend.
Chair Roberts.
Good morning. I'm Representative Tiffany Roberts, representing House District 6, which is North Berwick and South Berwick.
And again, I'm Senator Chip Curry, and I represent Senate District 11, which includes the 26 rural, coastal, and island communities of Waldo County. Supporting us today is Eva Reed, who is our committee clerk. And if we have any technical issues, she'll be helping us out with that. And she'll be promoting people today from the attendee list over to the panelist. Welcome, Eva. And with that, we're going to start off with the confirmations that are before us today. So Ms. Reed, if you could promote from the attendee list, Dr. Stephen Shannon. We'll start with Dr. Stephen Shannon today. Welcome, Dr. Shannon.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
We'll get started here with some formal language, which is associated with the nominations, and then we'll go to testimony from the governor's representative, and then for you. So we'll get started. This is a public hearing of the Joint Standing Committee on Innovation, Development, Economic Advancement, and Business for the purpose of considering the nomination by the governor of Dr. Stephen C. Shannon, DO MPH of Biddeford, for appointment to the Finance Authority of Maine. Under the law and the joint rules of the legislature, this committee is required to hold this public hearing and to recommend confirmation or denial of the nominee by majority vote of the committee members present and voting. As chairs of the committee, we will then send written notice of the committee's recommendation to the President of the Senate. The committee will hear testimony from and have an opportunity to question the governor or her representative and the nominee and any other person present who wish to speak for or against this nomination. This meeting is currently being live streamed on the committee's YouTube channel. This means that anyone who is participating in the meeting via Zoom can be seen and also heard if their microphone is unmuted. People testifying cannot be seen or heard until they are called upon to speak. This meeting will be recorded and available to view on the committee's YouTube channel soon after the meeting has concluded. Pursuant to Title III, Section 157 of the Maine statutes, which requires that there be an affirmative motion to recommend confirmation of the nominee, the chair recognizes Representative Roberts for the purpose of making such a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move the Joint Standing Committee on Innovation, Development, Economic Advancement, and Business recommend confirmation of Dr. Stephen C. Shannon, D.O., MPH of Biddeford, for appointment to the Finance Authority of Maine.
A copy of the statutory requirements for this position is available at the rostrum. The chair now recognizes Ms. O'Neill Lowe for the purpose of making a statement concerning this nomination. Welcome, Ms. O'Neill Lowe.
Senator Curry, Representative Roberts, and distinguished members of the Joint Standing Committee on Innovation, Development, Economic Advancement, and Business. My name is Melissa O'Neill Lowe, and I am the Director of Boards and Commissions for Governor Janet Mills. I'm here today on behalf of the governor to speak in support of the nomination of Dr. Stephen C. Shannon of Biddeford as a member of the Finance Authority of Maine. The Finance Authority of Maine can be found in Maine Revised Statutes under Title 10, Chapter 110, Section 1002. The board consists of 15 members, 13 of whom are appointed by the governor, the Commissioner of Department of Economic and Community Development, and the State Treasurer both serve as ex officio members. Dr. Stephen Shannon of Biddeford is being nominated to the seat that requires the nominee have expertise in the area of higher education. As you've undoubtedly seen from Dr. Shannon's background materials, he is a semi-retired physician and former Dean and Vice President of Health Services of the University of New England's College of Osteopathic Medicine. Dr. Shannon served from 2006 to 2019 as the president of the American Associations of Colleges of Osteopathic Medicine, the leading professional organization in the nation for osteopathic medical schools. Last year, Dr. Shannon joined UNE's Board of Trustees, where he serves on several committees, including the Academic and Student Affairs Committee. In addition to his medical degree, Dr. Shannon also holds an MPH from Harvard University and a BA in American History from the University of Maryland. Dr. Shannon is very familiar with issues facing higher education, including, but certainly not limited to, medicine and other health professions, and given his background, also possesses considerable expertise in financial matters. Lastly, Dr. Shannon was awarded the FAME Distinguished Service Award in Higher Education in 2002 for his outstanding work in higher ed on behalf of Maine people. It is for these reasons and many more that on behalf of the governor, I would ask that you support the nomination of Dr. Stephen C. Shannon of Biddeford to the Finance Authority of Maine. I'd be happy to answer any questions that anybody has this morning, and thank you so much for spending a little bit of time with me.
Thank you very much. Representative Collymore, did you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I apologize for being tardy. We had tree cutting in my town and it held up traffic by a few minutes. My name is Amanda Collymore. I represent House District 106, Pittsfield, Clinton, and Detroit.
Welcome. The chair would ask if any members of the committee have questions for Ms. O'Neill Lowe. Seeing no questions. Chair now recognizes Dr. Stephen Shannon for the purpose of making a statement concerning this nomination, and welcome to the committee.
Thank you very much. It's great to join you, Senator Curry, Representative Roberts, and distinguished members of the Joint Standing Committee on Innovation, Development, Economic Advancement, and Business. As you know, my name is Stephen Shannon, and I live in Biddeford, and I'm quite honored actually to be nominated by Governor Mills to serve on the FAME Board of Directors. A little bit personal information about myself, maybe. I'm the son of a Methodist minister. He and my mom had 6 children, and I'm the oldest of 5 brothers and 1 sister. I've been fortunate to find success in my life through higher education. My wife of more than 50 years and I both enjoyed career success because of that. She, with a PhD, was a researcher and a professor of neurophysiology, and me, as you know, as an osteopathic physician, with my specialty training was in family medicine and in public health. We moved from Maryland to Maine over 40 years ago, raised two beautiful daughters, and now have three granddaughters aged 10, 5, and 2, who fortunately live close by me and us in Kennebunkport. Both my wife and I recently retired, and we live on a small Icelandic sheep farm here in Biddeford. And we also enjoy our camp at Upper Sislodopsis Lake in Lakeville near Springfield. So as you know, I've used my education and training to practice medicine as well as public health in Maine. In addition, I worked on the faculty at the University of New England College of Osteopathic Medicine, or UNICOM as we call it. And I also worked for several years as a medical epidemiologist at the Maine CDC, which was then called the Maine Bureau of Health. I joined UNE formally as the dean in 1995, and I spent 11 years there as dean and VP for health services until 2006, and then took a position at the American Association of Colleges of Osteopathic Medicine as president and CEO. That was quite an involved position in terms of policy as it relates to higher education, as it relates to medical education, as it relates to accreditation and all kinds of issues, both for health professions education as well as in education in general. I continued in that position for 13 years and until I retired. Over the last couple of pandemic years, I've served as mentioned at the UNE Board of Trustees. I've also been a volunteer COVID vaccinator for Maine Responds and also at Maine Health. I had the opportunity to assist her parents in Zoom schooling my oldest granddaughter as she completed second and conquered third grade during the pandemic as well. So I've been aware, of course, of FAME's activities and responsibilities for many years. As dean, I was involved in supporting policies for loans and scholarships for Maine students seeking to attend medical school and other health professions schools and then to practice in Maine. And I was certainly honored to receive FAME's Distinguished Service Award in higher education during that time. I'm a citizen of Maine. I've planted our family roots here. I'm so pleased that they're still here, and I would like to see them stay and flourish in this state. I have a sister from Maryland who's trying to find a house to move up here. I think there are so many opportunities for development in Maine's economy, in our education and training system that will benefit our citizens in many ways. And clearly FAME has played and will continue to play a major role in these efforts. So I'd be honored to join that team in working to move these areas forward in the state. So thank you for the opportunity to make these few remarks and for considering my nomination. I of course be happy to answer any of your questions.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions from committee members? Chair recognizes Representative Pebworth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Dr. Shannon, for being willing to be nominated and going through this process. I will admit right off the bat that you had me at sheep farm. I think that I mean, any kind of being in the land helps inform so many other areas of life. I really appreciate that. I'm curious what brought you to Maine all those years ago.
I originally came here. My wife actually was hired at the newly formed New England College of Osteopathic Medicine at that time on the faculty. And I was in the process of going through my pre-med courses to attend medical school. And so I came here with her as she took that position and completed my training, spent time working at what became Southern Maine Medical Center as an orderly and as a nurse's aide and a nursing home, and did many other things to prepare myself for a health professions career, and then was able to gain admission to the college. And so I graduated from there in 1986. So that's what brought me up. And then once we were here, didn't want to leave.
It's great. I really appreciate the different experiences that you've had and that you bring to this. I think FAME will be lucky to have you on the board.
Thank you.
Dr. Shannon, I have a question for you. Oh, I see Representative Bernard. Go ahead, Representative Bernard.
That's okay. You're going to be sorry you deferred to me. Good morning, Dr. Shannon.
Morning.
I'm very impressed with your educational background, and I'm just wondering, did all of that background make you feel prepared for when you were helping to homeschool your grandchild?
You know, yes, it did. I gained a certain amount of ability to tolerate uncertainty and craziness, and as well as some technical skills that I might not have gained otherwise if I hadn't been down in DC, where I had to commute to Maine, for 13 years back and forth, and spend a lot of time on computers and doing that kind of thing. So I was, but now, quite frankly, she's teaching me how to connect and how to use Google, various Google Docs and things like that. So thank you.
I have to say that's not surprising. So if you have learned to deal with youngsters like that, I'm sure you'll do brilliantly with the legislature.
Thank you. Dr. Shannon, my question for you is you're being nominated for a position of someone familiar with higher education. And what do you find that you often have to explain to folks who haven't been in higher education about the funding of higher education and the finances of it and the challenges that students today are facing? Are there common misconceptions that when you're talking with folks that you have to educate them about the kind of the realities of kind of how higher education works today, and is particularly around the funding of it, or how students fund it?
Yeah, that has been that is certainly the case. Of course, my particular emphasis had to do with health professions and medical education. So a lot of that education occurs not only on the campus, but in hospitals, clinics, and elsewhere. And so that type of funding is relatively different than what you run into in community colleges and in colleges and universities, where the education is centered on the campus, even if it's sometimes commuter or distance. There's a number, there's a whole list of things that I've encountered in terms of trying to explain issues. One is just the complexity of what it takes to achieve accreditation and the importance of accreditation for individual institutions to undergo in order to maintain quality, which means that there's expenses involved in higher education that you normally wouldn't think you'd need to be spending. You need to have certain size libraries and or access for materials for your faculty and for students that one might assume one doesn't need necessarily. You may have to have laboratories for research so that you have faculty who are up to date with sort of cutting edge areas, so that they're conveying not only the knowledge to their students that they're teaching, but also engaged in moving that forward in a way that then has a kind of a symbiotic relationship. So you can have faculty that's contributing to development in an area at the same time that students are learning about how that occurs, both in the practical ways in which development occurs. For instance, I'm particularly interested, knowledgeable about the area of pharmacology and pharmaceuticals and things like that, and how that integrates in with medical and other health professions education with the faculty, as well as the research that occurs related to that, and then the implementation of development coming out of that. So there's all those things are relatively complex, and a lot of people think about college as it's going to be X number of years, 4 years, 2 years. For medical school, it was hard. It's sometimes hard to explain. It's 4 years plus 4 years plus at least another 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 years after that to completely finish, and other degrees are similar. But it's so the length of time, the complexity of the institutions that have to provide that education, and then unfortunately the costs. It seems to me that the expense that the student loans, the expense that students have to take are sometimes a barrier, frequently a barrier. And so, and just mention one other thing. I especially was involved with that, as dean, and then in the position I had with the American Association of Colleges of Osteopathic Medicine. A lot of students we educated were first-generation college students. And a lot of times, in order for a person to see that they can follow a career path, they have to run into somebody like themselves who's been down that road and has been successful at it. And so one of the things that I think is important, especially maybe in this state, is enabling the connections between those who are successful at business or successful in pursuing higher education and then being successful in careers after that, with students and others that don't necessarily see that career path because there's nobody in their family, there's nobody in their community necessarily who've been able to achieve that. So, there's many, many different things that come up, but those are just a few things that come to mind based upon your question.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Are there any other questions for Dr. Shannon? Chair recognizes Representative Austin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Dr. Shannon, for being with us. And I think it's safe to say we're very glad that you turned your vision toward the Northeast and our very little lovely spot up here and stayed with us. A couple of finite thoughts, questions. In the last few years, what's been the average size of docs coming out of UNE going into practice?
You mean the number of graduates?
Yes.
Oh, I believe it's been about 130 per class, something like that. I haven't been directly involved with that. When I was dean, it was 115 per class back in 2006, 2007. That was when I left the deanship there. But yeah, it's growing. It's growing.
Perhaps you can address how many stay in Maine? Do you have an idea on that?
I know that there's a significant number that stay in Maine in the sense of the number of residency training opportunities there are in Maine, because one of the biggest determinants of where a person practices is where they do their residency training.
Right.
And so there's only a few opportunities to do residency in the state. There's Maine Med, there's Eastern Maine, there's a couple of other residencies in Central Maine, and certainly in the program in Augusta, Waterville. But there's not a lot of folks have to leave the state to train in urban areas, and sometimes you lose people that way. So I know when I was dean, it was about 10 to 15 to 20 would stay and train in Maine, and then a good percentage of those would then continue on. The other thing was that there was limited opportunities for the specialties you could do in the state. If you wanted to do fellowships and things like that, there was not a lot that were available. So it's sometimes you got to get them back. One of the best ways to get them back is have them come from here, have family here, and know what it is. I still have many of my classmates. I graduated a long time ago, but I have classmates who ended up staying here to live, and half of my classmates come back every year because they, for even if it's just for vacation or for some of the meetings that they have up here for continuing medical education, because they love the state so much.
Thank you very much. That's very helpful.
there any other questions? Seeing none. Thank you very much for your testimony and for coming before us today.
Thank you very much.
Chair will now take comments from persons attending this hearing who wish to speak for or against this nomination. Ms. Reed, has anyone registered in order to give testimony for or against this nomination?
No.
Thank you. All public comments having been taken, the committee will now proceed as follows. Review any additional written comments on the nomination that have been received by the committee. Ms. Reed, has the committee received all the written comments or written testimony?
What was your question?
I know we all received a packet. Did that include all the written testimony or did any come in later?
Yes, that was all of it.
Thank you. Excellent. And then we'll proceed to a vote and to notify the president of the Senate pursuant to Title III MRSA Section 157 of the Joint Rules. Let's see. The hearing by the Joint Standing Committee on Innovation, Development, Economic Advancement, and Business for Dr. Stephen C. Shannon of Biddeford for appointment for the Finance Authority of Maine is now closed. If I had my gavel, I would hit that. In accordance with the law, the committee may not take a vote on this nomination sooner than 15 minutes after the close of the public hearing, unless all committee members who are present agree. At this point, therefore, the committee will inquire whether any member present objects to proceeding to take a vote immediately. Seeing none. The pending question before the committee is that the Joint Standing Committee on Innovation, Development, Economic Advancement, and Business recommend to the Senate of the 138th Maine Legislature that the nomination of Dr. Stephen C. Shannon of Biddeford for appointment to the Finance Authority of Maine be confirmed in accordance with 3 MRSA Chapter 6, Section 157, and with the joint rules of the 130th Legislature. The votes will be taken by the yeas and nays. Vote of yes will be in favor of recommending the confirmation. A vote of no will be against the motion to recommend confirmation. Is the committee ready for the question? The committee clerk will call the roll.
Representative Geiger is absent. Representative Andrews is absent. Representative Pebworth?
Yes.
Representative Pebworth, yes. Representative Collmore?
Yes.
Representative Collmore, yes. Senator Rafferty is absent. Senator Searway is absent. Representative Ducharme?
Yes.
Representative Ducharme, yes. Representative Austin?
Yes. Yes.
Representative Austin, yes. Representative Hassenfuss is absent. Representative La Rochelle?
Yes.
Representative La Rochelle, yes. Representative Bernard?
Yes.
Representative Bernard, yes. Representative Roberts?
Yes.
Representative Roberts, yes. Senator Curry?
Yes.
Senator Curry, yes.
With 8 members of the committee having voted in the affirmative and 0 in the negative, it is the vote of the Joint Standing Committee on Innovation, Development, Economic Advancement, and Business that the nomination Dr. Stephen Shannon of Biddeford for appointment to the Finance Authority of Maine be confirmed. Congratulations. Thank you very much for being willing to serve. If we were in person, we would shake your hands right now. Shake your hand.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you. And Ms. Reed, if you can promote, is it Frederick Fritz Onion? Welcome. Am I pronouncing your name correctly?
Yes, just Fritz is good.
Thank you. This is a public hearing of the Joint Standing Committee on Innovation, Development, Economic Advancement, and Business for the purpose of considering the nomination by the governor of Mr. Fritz Onion of Wayne for appointment to the Finance Authority of Maine. Actually, I think I have to say Frederick A. Onion of Wayne for the appointment of the Finance Authority of Maine. At this point, we'll move forward with the name you go by. Under the law and the joint rules of the legislature, the committee is required to hold this public hearing and to recommend confirmation or denial of the nominee by majority vote of the committee members present and voting. As chairs of the committee, we will then send written notice to the committee's recommendation to the president of the Senate. The committee will hear testimony from and have an opportunity to question the governor or her representative the nominee, and any other persons present who wish to speak for or against the nomination. Pursuant to Title III, Section 157 of the Maine statute, which requires that there be an affirmative motion to recommend confirmation of the nominee, the chair recognizes Representative Roberts for the purpose of making such a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move that the Joint Standing Committee on Innovation, Development, Economic Advancement, and Business recommend confirmation of Mr. Frederick A. Onion of Wayne for appointment to the Finance Authority of Maine.
A copy of the statutory requirement for this position is available at the rostrum. The chair now recognizes Ms. O'Neill Lowe for the purpose of making a statement concerning this nomination. Welcome back.
Thank you, Senator Curry, Representative Roberts, and distinguished members of the Joint Standing Committee on Innovation, Development, Economic Advancement, and Business. My name is Melissa O'Neill Lowe, and I am the Director of Boards and Commissions for Governor Janet Mills. I'm here today on behalf of the governor this morning to speak in support of the nomination of Frederick A. Onion of Wayne as a member of the Finance Authority of Maine. Fritz, as I've known him, is being nominated to FAME's board, which is reserved for an at-large member. Mr. Onion's impressive pedigree has a far-reaching breadth crossing software development, entrepreneurism, solar power, philanthropy, and tech workforce development. He is the co-founder of the Onion Foundation, located in Auburn, Maine, with a focus on conservation and stewardship of the natural environment, and promotes music and the arts in the state of Maine, and grants over $4 million per year to nonprofits in the state with similar missions. Additionally, Fritz is also the co-founder of Pluralsight, which is a tech workforce development company delivering training and educational tools to software developers and IT professionals, where he also served as Chief Content Officer and a member of the Board of Directors through Pluralsight's IPO on NASDAQ in 2018, and seeing that through to the eventual acquisition by Vista Equity Partners. Fritz is an established author and expert in his field. He holds an AB in computer science from Harvard University and an MS in computer science from the University of California, Irvine. For these reasons and many, many more, too long to list this morning, I would ask that on behalf of the governor, you support the nomination of Frederick A. Onion to the Finance Authority of Maine. Thank you for your time this morning. I'd be happy to answer any questions that anybody might have at this time.
The chair would ask if any members of the committee have questions for Ms. O'Neill Lowe. Seeing none. Thank you. Chair now recognizes Mr. Frederick Fritz Onion for the purpose of making a statement concerning this nomination. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator Curry, Representative Roberts, and distinguished members of the Joint Standing Committee on Innovation, Development, Economic Advancement, and Business. My name is Fritz Onion. I live in Wayne, and I'm honored to have been nominated by Governor Mills to serve on the Finance Authority of Maine Board of Directors. I grew up in Farmington and attended Mount Blue High School many years ago. And then, as Missy mentioned, I attended Harvard University with a degree in computer science, and then I went on to get a Master's of Science from the University of California, Irvine, also in computer science. For 10 years, I worked as an independent software consultant, trainer, speaker, and book author, specializing in web server development. And then in 2004, I co-founded the company she mentioned, Pluralsight, as a software developer training company, and was heads down in that company for the next 15 years or so. It was quite a run. We transitioned that company to a fully online training platform in 2012, which led us down this road of very quick growth. And in 2018, we debuted on NASDAQ, as Missy mentioned, as a public company. So I've served on the board of a public company for the last 3 years, which I have to tell you is quite an experience. In 2014, as Missy also mentioned, my wife Susan and I founded the Onion Foundation and have been supporting and working with many of the great nonprofits in the state of Maine over the last 8 years. I'm also personally invested in a number of young startup businesses in Maine and pretty active in the investment community. In particular, I've been working recently with the Rue Institute on their entrepreneurship program and their cohort of BIPOC and women leaders of young companies. So my interest in fame is closely tied to my entrepreneurial background. I think there's great power in giving people access to the resources and education they need to chase their dreams. I've worked extensively with the nonprofits, as I mentioned, and investors over the last 8 years, and I'm really interested in joining FAME to better see how state government can help individuals and communities thrive as well. I think it's really important that the state be part of this picture. We can't rely on just philanthropy and investments alone. And I think my experience as an entrepreneur, nonprofit supporter, and investor will be a useful perspective to bring to the board. And I appreciate your consideration of my nomination and would be happy to answer any of your questions.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions by committee members? I'll Representative Pebworth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you, Mr. Onion, for being here. I will not hold the fact that you don't have a sheep farm against you.
Well, I did grow up on a cow farm, just to tell you, a gentleman's farm. So we had 13 head of cattle and we did have 1 sheep.
Okay. Then I can tip my hand and say that you already have my vote. You're such a wonderful conglomeration of what we on the IDEA committee struggle with. How to keep people who are talented and engaged stay in the state of Maine. How to educate them here or get them to come back. How to integrate government, private sector, philanthropic efforts all pulled together. So this isn't a public hearing. I don't have to come up with a question for you other than to say, I'm delighted that you are looking to join the FAME board. And I think that you are exactly what we're looking for. And I would love to try to get more of you involved in more things. And I guess I would ask a little bit more about the Root Institute. To me, that's one of the jewels, absolute jewels in recent times. And one, I guess I would ask, is there another jewel that you see? And tell us a little bit more about your experience with the Root Institute, if you would.
Yeah, so I'm really excited about the speed with which the Root Institute is moving forward. They've got a lot of great people working there and really high ambitions. And I think what's impressed me most is exactly what you were asking about, is how do we attract great minds to come work and build businesses in our state? And there are a lot of different avenues they're pursuing that. As I mentioned, we're bringing in cohorts of companies 5 at a time every 6 months right now. I'm on the review panel for deciding which companies come in. And all of those companies in that cohort are going to be women or BIPOC-led companies. And I just met with the 5 founders a few weeks ago, and they're just really impressive. And we've had a lot of applications. I think we went through like 65 companies for that cohort applying, and we're only choosing 5 at a time. And they get a full year of office space down at the WEX building in Portland right now, as well as mentorship. That's another role that I'm serving as a mentor to some of these folks, and access to all of Northeastern and RU's faculty and research facilities. So I think it's a fantastic start. I wish this had happened 10 years ago, to be honest, but I think we're on the right path, and we should really support efforts like this. And I have not seen anything of this magnitude in the state before, so I'm not sure I can point you to another gem that's really going to make a difference. But I'm pleased that RU is happening now, and I'm happy to be part of the process.
Great, thank you. And I will no longer be on the IDEA committee, but perhaps we can look to hear more about the 5 companies and their experience. That might be an interesting presentation.
Absolutely.
Chair recognizes Representative Austin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And if I may, I will address you as Fritz.
Please.
I really appreciate Representative Pepper's inquiries, and it stirred a few thoughts that all of us are so I hate to use the word needy. We're really just so interested that we we grasp at all straws to get information about what's going on right within our beautiful state. So with regard to Rue, are a lot of those, and I hate to always be quantifying, but are a lot of those homegrown Maine interests popping up and showing their talents there that you're considering? Can you quantify that at all?
Sure. There are some, I would say not the majority at this point, but one of the motivations of this program is to bring people to work in Portland and consider moving their companies to Portland and moving their young workforce to Portland or other places in the state. So that's definitely one of the goals. There have been in previous cohorts companies that are Maine-based. I've worked with a company called Kinotech in Portland, which is a fascinating company that's doing automation of PA analysis. So you can take a video of someone just doing a squat and they'll analyze the angles of all your limbs and everything without having to touch you or be in an office. Anyway, there's a lot of cool innovation going on. I could go on and on, but yeah, so there's plenty of Maine companies coming through. I think there are fewer women and BIPOC companies in Maine right now, but I'm hoping that Rue will sort of promote that as an ideal and get resources out to people that are thinking maybe that's the direction they should go. One thing I will mention is they plan on creating these weekend entrepreneurship programs, and they're going to take them all over the state. So they're going to go up to Bangor, I think all the way up to Aroostook, different parts of the state, and just have a weekend for entrepreneurship for anyone that's interested, and show you what resources we have, at Rue and other places in the state, and give people, access to some of the stuff they're pursuing.
That sounds fabulous.
Yeah.
Another thought. You're just such a wonderful classic because, as you said, you came out of Mount Blue, had some farming in your background. I mean, we love all these little nuggets. But is there such a thing yet? Because through this committee and through all of our other experiences, all of us have come upon some young folks like you that have come back and have really started to dig in and really help build what we, as Representative Pepworth said, all that we really, stand for on this committee, our oversight, our umbrella, if you will. But has there been a body or group formed where even you homegrown folks get together and really can just, I can't imagine the energy of the thoughts and experiences that you can throw back and forth. Has there been any platform like that?
There are a few investor groups that get together, and they're often people that have come back to Maine and are, looking for where they can invest in local companies. But I haven't seen anything formal. That is one of the things that the Rue Institute is also hoping to do, is set up a local people from Maine that want to be part of the mentorship program and maybe consider investing in some of these companies. So that seems to be where the groundswell is right now. But I haven't been part of it directly, mostly because I've been so heads down in my own company for the last, we literally sold the company last June. So it's been a quick timeline.
Well, thank you for all that you have accomplished, all that you continue to work on, and I know you will in the future. And you're going to a wonderful group to work with. So best wishes.
Thank you.
Representative Bernard.
Thank you very much, Chair Curry, and good morning, Fritz.
Morning.
I just want to tell you, I'm also very impressed with the background and the work that you're doing, and I just want to encourage you, and I'm speaking from Caribou, to continue looking north with your energy and with your ideas, and to talk with companies about the possibilities of what we have in northern Maine, and not to get too mired in the old stereotypes. There's plenty of room to grow here. There's plenty of great workforce here. And I just want to encourage you to do that. And I was very glad to hear you say that you're thinking of putting on, I think you said workshops to come to Aroostook County. But even the actual companies themselves, where I heard you mention that they're coming into Portland. And certainly, I'm not going to say anything wrong with Portland. I lived there for a while and loved it. But we can certainly use the growth and would welcome it here.
I think there's a lot of untapped potential north of Portland, and coming from Farmington and Central Maine, I feel your pain as well. There's a lot of focus on the southern part of the state, and I'm definitely aware that it's a much bigger state than just the South.
I have a question for you. What do you, Fritz, what do you see the kind of the assets and the challenges, maybe one on each, for Maine's in the kind of entrepreneurial ecosystem for supporting startups? What are what are we getting right now, and what is a gap?
So I think the biggest gap is that we don't have the momentum that a lot of other tech centers do around the country. Like if you go to the Boston area, where Northeastern is, they have a very successful entrepreneurship program, which we are modeling, or they are modeling RU after in a lot of ways. But because you have all these past entrepreneurs that were successful, they often want to put their resources into young entrepreneurs starting up new companies. And there just aren't that many of us in Maine, to be honest. But that number is growing, and a lot of people are coming back to Maine. We have one of the top developers at Google who just came and resettled back here. He actually created the Android operating system at Google, so he's quite the technical phenom. But he's very under the radar. So I think it's very attractive for people to come here. I mean, obviously, this is where I want to spend my time, and I think I could convince others that it's a good place to come. But we do need more of those sort of successful entrepreneurs to act as mentors and investors, and let people know where they should be focusing their efforts, because you really need some direction. And when you start a company, a lot of people have great ideas, or they think they're great until they start trying to actually build a company out of it, and then realize that it wasn't quite as great as they thought. So mentorship is key. As far as resources, the University of Maine system is fantastic. Having the Orono engineering programs, the climate change program, all that stuff, all those resources, UNE, we're getting a lot of good folks out of there. But I think we need more graduate level programs. And again, that's something that RU is hoping to target, both in biology, biotech, and sort of tech and data science. So that's where we could use some more. And I'm hoping RU will fill that void, but we have plenty of more space for that to be filled out as well.
Thank you very much. Are there any other questions for Mr. Onion? Seeing none. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair will now take comments from persons attending the hearing who wish to speak for or against this nomination. Ms. Reed, has anyone registered to speak for or against this nomination?
No.
Great. All public comments having been taken, the committee will now proceed to review any written materials. Have there been any materials submitted since the packets were distributed to the committee members?
No.
Great. Thank you. Our next step is to vote on the nomination and to notify the President of the Senate pursuant to Title III MRSA Section 157 of the Joint Rules. The hearing by the Joint Standing Committee on Innovation, Development, Economic Advancement, and Business for Mr. Frederick Fritz Onion of Wayne for appointment to the Finance Authority of Maine is now closed. In accordance with the law, the committee may not take a vote on this nomination sooner than 15 minutes after the close of the public hearing, unless all committee members who are present agree. This time, therefore, the chair will inquire whether a member present objects to proceeding to take a vote immediately. Seeing no objections. The pending question before the committee is that the Joint Standing Committee on Innovation, Development, Economic Advancement, and Business recommend to the Senate of the 130th Maine Legislature that the nomination of Mr. Frederick A. Onion of Wayne for appointment to the Finance Authority of Maine be confirmed in accordance with 3 MRSA Chapter 6, Section 157, and with the joint rules of the 130th Legislature. The vote will be taken by the yeas and nays. A vote of yes will be in favor of recommending confirmation. A vote of no will be against the motion to recommend confirmation. Is the committee ready for the question? The committee clerk will call the roll.
Representative Geiger is absent. Representative Andrews is absent. Representative Pebworth.
Yes.
Representative Pebworth, yes. Representative Collmore.
Yes.
Representative Collmore, yes. Senator Rafferty is absent. Senator Searway is absent. Representative Ducharme.
Yes.
Representative Ducharme, yes. Representative Austin.
Yes.
Representative Austin, yes. Representative Hassifus is absent. Representative LaRochelle.
Yes, and thank you, Mr. Onion, for taking on this role.
Representative LaRochelle, yes. Representative Bernard.
Yes.
Representative Bernard, yes. Representative Roberts.
Yes.
Representative Roberts, yes. Senator Curry.
Yes.
Senator Curry, yes.
With 8 members of the committee having voted in the affirmative and 0 in the negative, is the vote of the Joint Standing Committee on Innovation, Development, Economic Advancement, and Business that the nomination of Mr. Frederick A. Onion of Wayne for appointment to the Finance Authority of Maine be confirmed. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
At this point, if there, I believe Ms. Reed was going to, not Ms. Reed, Ms. Olson was going to step in. Ms. O'Neill Lowe, I think we are done. There's no more appointments.
Thank you all.
And thank you, Mr. Onion.
I believe
Thank
this
you,
is the
Missy.
last time. Yeah, thank you. This is the last time I'm going to see you guys this session, I believe. So just want to thank you all for all of the hearings that we've been through together. And I appreciate your kindness and everything that you've done for our nominees. So I hope you have a great break after session's over, and we'll see you soon.
I wasn't sure if this was going to be our last confirmation hearing.
I'm pretty sure it is. We've got quite a few next week, but not on this committee anyway.
All right, excellent. Well, thank you
Take
very
care.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, Fretz.
There we go. Welcome, Ms. Olson.
Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
I am with you today to talk about the committee's priorities regarding the bills on the special appropriations table. I sent out a document of materials to the committee yesterday, and I thought we could take the time today to review those materials and I can answer any questions that the committee might have regarding this process. This is dictated within the joint rules, and AFA's chairs have sent a memo to the chairs of the joint standing committees requesting that the committee submit their priorities at this time. So I can put the document on the screen, and then if there are any questions to go over them, and there are a few things that I would like to note, and then we can proceed with this however you'd really like. There's no standard process. The joint rules really just say that the committee needs to let AFA know of their committee priorities regarding bills on the table, and that it is required that when I do submit the memo to AFA that all committee members indicate how they vote, which is often why committees will do something by ballot. But as you'll note in the email, I asked you not to do the ballot yet so that we could take a chance to talk about it this morning. And I'm in a different computer setup, so my apologies if I'm not facing the camera like I normally do.
And one of the things that I would recommend, my understanding from the Senate chair of AFA is that what really matters is when we have unanimity, that we spend our energy on those bills that have the most unanimous or near unanimous support. I'm going to check in with Representative Ducharme. Is that your understanding also of that the message that has sway or has priority with the committee is when there is kind of a strong statement from each committee.
That is correct. That's correct.
I would just encourage us not to spend a whole lot of time on things that we know are pretty darn divided reports.
Okay, and so with that, and now I'll say our universe is relatively small and it's going to get smaller as I talk to you today. That's not a bad thing.
Okay, that's an interesting comment. Okay.
I know. And that's just what I mean is that we're going to talk about what's on the list, and not really everything on the list is necessarily something you'd vote for. Okay, I know it's small. I'll try to make it as big as possible. So this document's color coded and includes some notes. This table was provided to us by the analyst for AFA. We were also asked to try to anticipate bills that are not currently on the special appropriations table, but might land on the special appropriations table. That is a guessing game. There is some guidance to determine that, although we're still waiting on fiscal notes. So I've put the bills that I expect to land there on this list. That may or may not be correct. Generally speaking, if something has a fiscal note, but the impact to the general fund is minor, it does not usually get recommended to go on the table. And if it's an other special revenue source, that also usually, these are things that affect the general fund. So those are separated. With a top document are bills that were essentially carried over on the table from last session. And of note, sort of the ones that are still live include LD 110, which is an act to establish the Sunrise Review and Legislative Report Fund. It's requesting an ongoing $40,000 amount. This is a divided report. The ones here in green, you'll note in the notes that there is potential overlap in the budget packages from last session. So really quickly to kind of discuss this, in LD 119 was funded in the LD 1733 budget. The request in LD 119 was for a one-time $1 million appropriation, and that is the funding that was provided in LD 1733. And that is the Nursing Education Loan Repayment Program. So that has been funded as the bill is currently written, that received funding in 1733. And you'll remember that there was some language changes in order to facilitate that funding. That money was federal rescue plan money. And so we did also deal with the changes to language related to that so that they could use that funding. LD 273, this is the act to sustain the Doctors for Maine's Future Scholarship Program. In LD 1733, this program received $1 million in both fiscal year 22 and fiscal year 23, and those were American Rescue Plan dollars, so greater than the amount requested in LD 273. So that program was funded with ARPA funds at $1 million for both 22 and 23. LD 292, this is the Maine State Grant Program. This was funded in LD 221. In fiscal year 22, it received $10 million, and that $10 million is now included in the baseline of the budget. And LD 730, which dealt with the Pine Tree Development Zone, this was extending the end of these benefits to 2033. This had varying impacts. This is a tax program, but that language change and the resulting impact on the general fund was funded as a part of LD 221, or I don't know if it's funded is the right word or accounted for is the right word, but those changes were addressed in LD 221. So they are on the table, but they have been funded, and it's sort of the committee. I'm giving you that information so that as you move forward in your consideration for ranking, you should just know that these have been funded.
Representative Pepworth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Ms. Olson. I understand completely on LD 119, 273, and 730 that those I have stricken from my ballot because they are already funded. Yeah. I was a little confused about 292. It's funded for FY22.
And it's in the baseline budget now. So it does not need an additional request. It's included in the baseline.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yep. Okay, then that moves us on to the ones in, we're gonna call this gray, blue. It's a gray blue. LD 1493, 1566, and 1641. These were resolves directing DECD or the Maine Arts Commission to develop programs to support workers in different industries struggling as a result of the pandemic. 1493 was to administer a fund to provide seasonal and tourism industry recovery grants. 1566 was directing the Maine Arts Commission to create a program for public art recovery grants. And 1641 was directing DECD to create a program and fund to provide grants to movie and stage theaters and music venues. In each of these three bills, the funding language, both the creation of the fund to do the work and the request in the fiscal note, directed that only federal rescue plan dollars could be used. So designated funding that was allocated in LD 1733. Those funds have been fully allocated as of the close of the first session of the 130th. So these bills, there's currently no existing funding to fund those based on the language that's in the bill. So if there was, if the committee wanted these bills to move forward, they would need to be amended to designate a different funding source. And bills can be amended off the table, but just to let you know, they can't move forward without an amendment to change the funding source.
Representative Ducharme.
So do I understand that those weren't funded through ARPA funds as we had requested?
I would need to follow up specifically with those departments to know if they implemented any programs that were modeled on that language. But as they're still sitting on the table, I don't believe that those programs as written in that language were enacted. They may have done something similar or offered funds to those types of people or industries, but I don't know the specifics on that. I'm happy to reach out to DECD and the Maine Arts Commission to see if they did anything similar to those programs.
That would be helpful to know.
Yes.
If any programs related to those areas got funded.
Sure. I can follow up and I will get back to you as soon as I hear.
Thank you.
And in particular, Ms. Olson, LD 1493 had a unanimous report. So I think that would be an area for us to focus on most heavily.
Okay, I will follow up with DECD and the Maine Arts Commission to see, I guess, if they did anything with their ARPA funds that were similar to those programs or that were supportive of those industries. So that leaves LD 1476. We talked about this when we were doing our review of the budget and our recommendations to AFA. LD 1476 is a resolve directing the Department of Economic and Community Development to create and share measures of progress. This was requesting, this was to do the work that Mr. Breen discussed in terms of the dashboard and update to those materials for this strategic measures of growth. And the request was $30,000. There is funding which the committee has supported in the current budget, LD 1995. That brings that amount up to, I think it was 80. No, I'm sorry, I didn't check the number. I thought it was 85, but it's something around there. But it brings it up to the requested amount that MDF was seeking, or DECD through and their work through MDF was seeking in order to do this.
So we do not need to fund this or make this a priority because it is already funded.
In the governor's bill.
Yes. Yes, increased funding has been provided in the governor's bill for the work that's being directed to be done in and the group that does it in 1476. So that leaves, as I mentioned, LD 110, which is a divided report. This LD 1476 that I mentioned has been funded, sorry. So that leaves, sorry, this one, 1497. This is also a divided report. This was an act to expand youth-led perspectives in economic and workforce development through the Maine Development Foundation's Realize Maine network. And that was requesting $195,000 in fiscal year 22 and fiscal year 23. And then LD 1978, this is from this session, and it is currently on the table. This is also a divided report, an act to promote home ownership by reducing education debt. This was the committee bill, and it's requesting $10 million in fiscal year 23. So that is currently on the table from this session. And anticipated to go on the table, but of note, we have LD 1652. This actually I was tracking, but then got pulled away. So I'm not exactly sure if this is still the accurate posture for the bill. This is an act to build a child care system by recruiting and retaining Maine's early childhood educators workforce. And as we talked about during the work session, this has the funding is an overlap with information in the budget as well, and that's $12,227,602. I see a hand.
Oh, thank you, Representative Cullimore.
Thanks. This kind of goes, actually, I raised my hand at 1476.
Oh, sorry.
So
No,
this
it's
kind of
okay.
goes back to that, but also includes this one. And I know that there's potential overlap with the current proposed budget, but shouldn't we still prioritize them so they don't get stricken from that budget as stuff is going on?
The reasoning seems sound. I don't disagree.
Yeah, I don't want to not, like for 1652 in particular, say, we're not going to rate that and then have it accidentally get cut off because we didn't rate it.
Sure.
All right, thank you.
And then we have LD 1785, an act to address staffing shortages and critical public safety jobs through economic incentives was the original bill title. This bill is in two postures on the floor. It's in non-concurrence, this divided report. Either report requires general fund appropriations, either $125,000 to ask DOL to conduct the study or $2 million for the student loan repayment program. And then finally, I decided to place LD 1885. I believe that's going to land on the special appropriations table. There is no final fiscal note yet, although the bill requested general fund appropriations. So I feel it's a safe bet to say that it's going to land on the table. The request was approximately $920,000. That's in addition to funding that's already allocated to the program. Appropriated to the program. This is an act to increase Maine's veterinary workforce. And if you'll remember during our conversation around the budget in our memo to AFA, we recommended inclusion of this and this amount into the budget. So there has already been a demonstrated strong support of this amount and this piece of legislation by this committee.
Excellent. All right, and that's all the bills.
That is all the bills that are either currently on the table or that I anticipate to be on the table. There are 3 additional ones. This Maine, establishing the Maine Space Corporation, although that fiscal note is minor impact to the general fund. So given the guidance, I do not anticipate it landing on the table. LD 1694, the land banks. This one I have no fiscal information for. It has a dedicated revenue source. So I did not, so therefore I chose not to place it on the table, but that one I have truly no real guidance on yet, since I don't have any fiscal information. And then the last one is the one that we dealt with on Wednesday, LD 2035. And again, I have no fiscal information on that, but I don't believe that there was any necessity for money in 149, which I just realized I could check, and that would give me a better sense. So again, I'm not anticipating that. Yeah, if I'm thinking that it's a similar action as LD 149 from last session, that also just had minor costs and revenue increases, and that's other special revenue funds anyway. So that should not, by the guidance, should also not land on the table. I'm not the fiscal, I don't make those decisions, and I'm not the fiscal analyst. So if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but that's my best, given the guidance I've been given.
Could you go back to sharing?
Yes, yes, of
Thanks.
course. Sorry, just really, had that moment where I said, oh, I could do that, and that would give me a lot more info. Okay. So.
Okay. And so there's one process-wise, we could go through and we all just fill this out ourselves individually, and we give it to you and you tally them up and create a letter for AFA. Is that?
Why not? Yeah, the tallying part is, I could tally it. I could also just staple the ballots to it.
Okay. All right. So Chair recognizes Representative Collmore.
Thank you. Could we go back to LD 1785, please? And I'm curious about this one because when I think about, and just to put it out there, I am in, I have the preference of we do individual ballots.
I think I'll just, sorry to interrupt,
but
I'll just note, I think regardless of what we do, I will need an individual ballot from everybody. Because it says that I need to document each legislator's priorities and submit that information. But we could also have a broader conversation, which might bring more consistency to your votes where you want that consistency to exist.
So so what you'll need on that is an email, or print this up, scan it, and send it back to you. Either way.
Yes.
Okay, great. So as conversation goes, Representative Collmore.
Thank you. So with 1785, when we're thinking about the prioritization, at least for me personally, because it was sent back to the Senate in non-concurrence, I'd like to prioritize the study, but not the repayment of student loans. And so how do I indicate that? Because I do see that you have 125,000 or 2 million. And if it's the 2 million, it's very low for me. But if it's the 125,000, it's a different priority level. So that's my question on that one.
I think you could maybe just annotate it. And then, you know, I can note the differences in the written memo, just to draw attention to that. So you could either write off to the side that your support is for the majority or minority report, or you could circle the number. Either way would be acceptable. I've seen lots of ballots that some are very clear and some are not clear. So just strive for clarity. That's all I ask.
Representative Pepworth.
What's the deadline for this?
The deadline is I need to submit the information by the 4th.
So if you could get it
Monday.
today, that would be helpful. You could get it on Monday.
I think Monday would be just fine.
Okay, if you got it on Monday, that would be Monday in the earlier part of the day. That would be ideal. All right. Can I make a recommendation? I mean, I'm just going to put out there, you know, my first, and I'll see whether anyone has any agreement with that or disagreement. But just for the sake of discussion, I think my first is probably 1652, and my second is 1885. But are there other places that we might be able to get to? You know, what are reactions to that? And I see Representative Ducharme, you might have had a different tack on this. Or your hand went up before I made that recommendation.
Thank you, Chairman Curry. I would concur with your 1 and 2. Just responding to what you had to say. My question was going to be for Ms. Olson about the ones that are shaded in, I think she called it gray. 1493, 1566, and 1641. I'd hate to not prioritize those in our discussions or in our voting if they don't have funding for those. So any thoughts on when we can get that clarity?
Yeah, I'll reach out to DECD once we wrap up today. So I hope I could have a response by the end of the workday today. So you'd all have it over the weekend. That would be my desire. I just want to note, so it's maybe possible that work has been done to support these industries, but not through the programs as outlined in the bills on the table. And if you wanted to continue directing one of those agencies to create these programs, the bills would need to be amended to find a new funding source in order for them to get moved off the table. Because as currently written, none of that funding remains. That has all been allocated, the ARPA funding.
Yeah. Other questions?
I'm not saying that's not possible, just that adds, there's another layer to that. Although Representative Sharm, you're on AFA, so that might be helpful.
And I'm going to head to AFA now. I understand the process. We're going to turn these in, but before the 4th, and I'll look for clarity on those other ones. But now I'm going to head to AFA.
Was there anyone that wanted to recommend a third that we had to try to highlight, where we had more unanimous consent or consent agreement?
I would just note the other not divided report or unanimous report is 1476. And as Representative Collmore mentioned, just because it's in the budget doesn't mean that you might not want to continue to recommend it. It's sort of sending that very strong message, but that's your other unanimous report.
So if we did 1, 2, and put that as 3, noting that we support the governor's budget to include this, including this item in the governor's budget, some narrative that can go with that.
Yeah, so I mean, everyone could do their own ballot, and I could write in the memo that, that each individual legislator's priorities are attached, but that the committee as a whole has 3 unanimous reports on the table, and the committee supports those as I could just use the word as top priorities, not as first priorities, but as top priorities in the memo. And then they can consult the attached priorities, ranks for individual preferences.
Does everyone feel comfortable with what they have, or anyone want to try to build a consensus that's different? Not seeing any. Representative Bernard.
No, just a question for the folks who are not here this morning. I wonder how this is going to be sent out to folks. I want to kind of give a heads up to folks to be looking for this and how they need to respond. Yes.
So I have sent it out already. I sent it yesterday. I will send it again. We talked about sort of what the color coding means, just for the purpose of understanding maybe how you might want to vote, giving you that additional information. And then the directions are to rank the following bills. Number 1 is the highest ranking. Give each bill a different rank. Only one bill gets to be number 1. Only one bill gets to be number 2. Don't give me 4 number 8s. I've seen this on a ballot. You don't have to rank everything, although, well, particularly given our conversation, but please give 1 as the highest ranking and do not give bills the same rank. And then you need to sign it. This will be due back to me by the early afternoon on Monday. And I'm going to get that information out to you this afternoon, ideally. You can sign it and scan it back to me. You could type this into an email and send me your email. That counts as a signature as well. If you're really snazzy at PDF, you can fill it out and sign it with your digital signature and scan it back. You guys with your tech savvy skills can do it however you want. And if you would also like, we're in the office, so if you want to drop it off at any point today or Monday as well, you're welcome to bring it by on paper.
Drop it at the OPLA office, not at
Yes.
the committee room. Yeah, great.
Yeah. Although if you dropped it at the committee room, Eva would make sure I got it.
Great. Representative Pebworth?
I just want to again point out how wonderful Zoom is for things like this, that people who aren't in this meeting today can watch it at double speed and get all the information that we just took in. Thank you, Ms. Olson.
I might be horrified that someone can listen to me at double speed.
If you could stop sharing, Ms. Olson. Being that this could be our last official meeting, I know we have we have our workforce investment group that we do need to nominate in, but I don't think we have that ready now. And so I just wanted to say, I wanted to thank this committee. It has been a pleasure to serve with you all. And I want to particularly thank Ms. Olson and Ms. Reed for their utmost professionalism in throughout this, and really leaning on them a number of times for support. And it was a real joy to work with you all. So I want to say thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Reed.
Well, that would have been a good note to end it on, but I do have some annoying things for some of you. I sent out the jackets for LD 2035 yesterday, and since we're waiting on Ross and everything, they want everything reported out as soon as possible after Ross gets it out. So if you could send me your signatures, if you haven't already, I just resent out the emails to people who didn't answer me. That would be great. Also, for the chairs, I just sent you the letters for President Jackson for the confirmation hearings.
Great. I'll go look at them right now.
I'm also going to jump in. I know it was such a nice ending.
Yeah, well.
We still have language reviews coming by email. In particular, I sent you the final language for LD 1923, our spaceport bill, with the county designations, and then nothing else was, everything else was as it was presented at the last meeting. So if I don't hear anything, I'm sending that file back when we close off today. So that should get reported out soon, probably in time, I would imagine, for the calendar next week. And we'll have language review. We have three more, 1885, 1694, and 2035. So please be attentive to your emails, because we are quick turnaround. Your timeframes to approve are getting shorter. So, oh, I'm sorry, Representative Austin. By the way, I drove behind you the other day. It wasn't hard to know I was behind you. I don't know if anyone else has ever driven behind her, so you know what I'm saying.
It's just
because her name's on her car.
How did you know it was me? That's the Austin mobile.
And also, just as a friendly reminder for everybody, while this might be our last FaceTime committee meeting, I am here to assist you with anything else that you need as session continues. So please do not hesitate to reach out if you have questions about a floor on the bill, if you need a floor amendment, anything like that. I'm here and available. You can call my office, you can email me, you can stop by. Okay.
We'll see you all next Tuesday, and then we'll see a lot of each other, or at least some of us will see a lot of each other the following week and beyond. With that, we'll take a motion to adjourn.